All right, thanks for tuning in to OFN College Football Weekly with Mitch Light of Athlon Sports for this Thursday, the 14th of November, 2019, on the Ourlads Football Radio Network at ourlads.com, the king of online football depth charts and college football scouting. OFN College Football Weekly is brought to you by Athlon Sports, the leading publisher of preseason annuals for more than 50 years, sold in 60,000 outlets nationwide. And besides the MAC, which is already underway this week, Mitch, everybody's talking about the playoff rankings and, of course, the big games last week that we talked about. LSU survives, and they are looking like the Kings. They're number one, and Alabama's still number 5.
Yeah, no great surprises there with the rankings, in my opinion. I thought Georgia would be slotted 4th and Alabama 5th. I didn't think this week, Greg, there was a right answer or a wrong answer for 4. I think the top 3 were easy, and there's different arguments, good arguments, bad arguments for a bunch of teams at 4. But the good thing is it doesn't really matter this week because so many of these teams will have big tests ahead of them. So I didn't get too caught up in it. I understand if some people say, oh, how can Georgia be there? They lost to South Carolina at home. Then if you say Alabama, how can Alabama be there? They don't have any good wins. Put Minnesota there. They have one good win, and their next best win might be Illinois. So it's right now there's no good quality team to be 4th, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think there will be soon.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's the system we're in today, unfortunately. It's the old, well, they beat that team, who beat that team, who lost to that team. It's just a silly process.
Right.
But it is what we have. But, yeah, like you said, it'll work itself out. It usually always does, at least for most of the fans. Okay, there'll always be a fan base that'll be upset, but we'll get to that in a few weeks.
So what is your prediction? I don't want to hear your Final 4 now, your top 4. What is your prediction for the playoff? I'm looking at November 14th, that in less than a month, when the committee releases its Final 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna see. I have an interesting take because I have to think about how it's all gonna work out. So what I think is gonna happen is my guess is that again, like I said before, I think it's so hard to go undefeated unless you have a weak schedule like Clemson. So I am going to say that if LSU is going to lose, which I still think they're going to lose to Georgia in the SEC championship game. Both of them are going to get to the playoffs anyway. Clemson will get in because they're undefeated. And the final team is going to be Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I do believe that as long as they run the table, which I'm going to say they're going to beat Utah. I think Utah will run the table. I think that win will put them in the Final 4. And I'm going to say we're going to get an LSU-Georgia semifinal rematch. Oregon-Clemson, and I'm going to go ahead and say Oregon is going to lose to LSU in the championship game.
Okay, I've got LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, and Utah as my predicted college football playoff field.
LSU, Ohio State, Clemson. So we both have a Pac-12 team. We just differ on the team.
Right.
And you're going to say Ohio State is going to run the table, which I tell you what, they're going to gain my respect, no doubt. If in 3 weeks in a row they beat Penn State, Michigan, and Minnesota, that's like going to be as good as any run that we're going to see if they can make that run.
I think they're that good. Then so I got Clemson. I think we both agree Clemson's going to run the table because of the weak schedule, and they're a very good team. So then I got Utah. So I'd go LSU over Utah in the semis, Ohio State over Clemson, and then I don't know. I'd probably pick Ohio State over LSU head-to-head, but who knows?
Okay. Well, hey, if Ohio State can pull that kind of run off, then maybe they can get it done. But what's also good is what we've been saying for the past several weeks, and that is the fact that there is no complete dominant team. So we can actually go down maybe and look at the entire – I could look at the entire top 10 and say – if this was one of those years where there was, say, 10 teams in the playoffs, any of the 10 can win it. That's how much parity I think there is this year.
So you don't think there's 3 top teams and then a drop-off? You don't think the LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, and then a gap?
Do I believe in how well they're playing and how good they are? Yes. Are they beatable where LSU can lose to Oklahoma at number 10? not just any given week kind of thing, but that Oklahoma could actually beat LSU, and it would be a good game. Yeah, I actually do.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's that tight. I think the one thing that we'll find out this week with LSU is, and we'll find out in the next few weeks, how they do handle this. They're the Kings now. You know, it's always easier sometimes. You always got that goal in mind. We got to beat the king, and we're the underdog, and we got to get to the top. Now you're at the top. Now everybody's looking at you. How does LSU handle that?
Yeah, and they weren't shy about proclaiming themselves to be the Kings now either.
No.
They rightfully so. They enjoyed that win over Alabama.
And they deserved it, no question.
Yes.
That was a great performance and a crazy. Matter of fact, you had mentioned to me, we were talking about Aranda, and I think you were the one who talked about that LSU might actually need a new defensive coordinator.
No, it was not me.
Was it you?
It was not me.
Who was it?
I would never speak poorly of Dave Aranda.
All right, then it was. Who was it then? You trashed. There was another highly named coordinator.
Really?
But was it? Maybe was it? I don't think it was Orlando. I don't think it was him because he's an easy one to pick.
Okay,
there was somebody. I got to remember who that was. It was somebody.
Okay.
Somebody with a name on a big team, and you said, yeah, he's kind of overrated. He's probably going to go. But all right, so Aranda, what? That's just your typical college football defensive coordinator decision. Yeah, I'm going to play man because this is college football and anything can happen. I mean, come on, you never see that in the NFL. It's just so ridiculous how we let them back in the game with that. But that touchdown pass.
Yeah, I mean, but Alabama has elite wide receivers. Sometimes it doesn't matter what defense you're playing. That's as good of a crew as we've seen in college football as far as depth in years.
What about Tua? I don't even know. You know what? I don't know if he plays this week. I don't think he should. They'll beat Mississippi State without him. You know what? I definitely wouldn't play him. If they think he could play, then, all right, if you're in trouble in the second half or in the fourth quarter and you need him to bail you out, then, okay, you can go ahead and have him bail you out. But I wouldn't play him. I wouldn't start him. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, the way he looked at the end of the game was not great. I mean, and they rolled him out a lot. They did a lot of things to get him on the move. And so I'm with you. I have no idea. I was going to say no inside information, but that's obvious. No one has inside information in Alabama. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he didn't play this week.
Yeah, it was probably one of those things where he got he received his medication to play with the pain, and by the end of the game, the medication wore off.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like to me, because he wasn't limping during the game. It just looked like at the end of the game he was shot, and he was done. So, but look, you got to applaud him. I applaud him for the way that he battled. It was the defense. And this is something that we've been talking a lot about Alabama the last few years. It's the reason why they haven't won more championships the last couple of years. It's the defense has really let them down in big games.
In big games against the Clemsons of the world and now LSU.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so as far as the SEC is concerned, you've got the big one this week. We both like Georgia. I know you like them just a little bit more because I believe this is your 5-star pick of the week. It was a 7-point spread, which I thought maybe it's a little high. Auburn, home dog. The whole deal about Malzahn never losing after a bye. I could see Auburn maybe covering a close game. But then, boy, it looked like everybody just threw their early money on Auburn, and that went down to 3 fast. And as soon as that happened, I was like, well, wait a second. I'm not saying Auburn's going to win this football game. So that's why I jumped on Georgia, too, because 3 is usually a win. I just think Bo Nix going up against a Georgia defense is asking for trouble.
Yeah, against teams currently ranked, Bo Nix is 39 for 93 for 42% completion percentage, 5.1 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Georgia defense has not allowed more than 20 points in any game this season. Clemson is the only other team in the nation that can say that. So I think this, even though Auburn's at home, I think the Georgia defense will be too much for Bo Nix and that offense.
I don't think it matters whether Whitlow plays or not. DJ Williams has done well. You look at Georgia, and they've won the last 2 in this series, including the SEC championship game back in 2017. Auburn is 3-1 straight up 4-0 against the spread the last 4 as a home dog, and they've covered both games as a dog this year. But again, the number's 3. It's a real small number, and this is when you have 2 really good defenses who are probably as good as each other. I mean, Auburn's also a very good defense, but Georgia's got Fromm. That's the difference in my mind.
Yeah, I just think they have more offensive talent.
All right. Now, LSU, Ole Miss. Does LSU have any sort of hangover?
Maybe a little bit. I think they could have some trouble with that running game with John Rice Plumlee. Ole Miss has a deep backfield, something they haven't had in recent years. And the defense hasn't, been great obviously this year. So I don't see any way Ole Miss stops them. So I could see a 50, 54, 31 type game where it's never really in doubt, but so a lot of points.
Yeah, and maybe LSU. Maybe if you want to take the game, you probably take the first half. Maybe LSU gets maybe a little half football before they wake up or something. Who knows? This is Ed Orgeron's former team, so maybe that helps.
Right.
Because he's not going to relax about wanting to beat up Ole Miss.
Sure.
And Matt Luke is 0-6 against the spread as a home dog.
Saw that stat today.
Yeah, so there you go. All right. Also in the conference, Alabama's an 18-point favorite. I like Alabama. It's a small number. I don't care who the quarterback is. I'm not saying they're going to annihilate Mississippi State. Mississippi State has dropped all three against the spread as a dog this year. And interesting, Alabama's coming up their first regular season loss since week 3 against Ole Miss in 2015.
Wow. Yeah, I like Alabama because for them now it's not just a winning games. It's kind of a beauty contest. They need to look good. They need to blow out everyone in their schedule.
Agreed.
Press the committee. So I'm with you. I like them to cover.
I like Florida against Missouri. Even it looks like they're going to get Bryant back because Florida is looking at a team that's annihilated them the last 2 years. So it's only a 7-point spread, and they still got some a little bit of hope, a little tiny bit of hope. Of being in a big game. I don't think they have a chance, of course, of making the playoffs, but it's an important game for Florida.
Yeah, I mean they can make a New Year's Six bowl, and I think they just want to beat Missouri. Missouri's 5-2 against them since Missouri joined the SEC, and like you mentioned, the last two, I think the combined score of the last two games 83-33. So Florida's a good team. They've got some issues in the offensive line, but very well coached. Very good on defense. I'm with you. I like Florida to win this game.
All right. Also, you've got the Kentucky-Vanderbilt game, and Kentucky needs 2 more wins for bowl eligibility, I believe. So they get UT Martin next week. So a win here pretty much would solidify that. But interesting, Kentucky 0-3 on the road this year. Since 2011, they've only been a road favorite this is the 4th time since 2011. They're a road favorite, if you could believe it. The favorite in the series has won 9 of 10 outright. But Kentucky's 0-11 against the spread in their last 11 games versus SEC teams coming off a double-digit straight-up loss. Vandy did beat Missouri. What do you think about this one?
Yeah. Vanderbilt's offense has been so bad in recent weeks because the injuries at the quarterback position. Riley Neal's back this week, who actually played well the last 2 times he's played. He's just been injured. And thing to watch to Kentucky, Lynn Bowden's been banged up, hurt his ankle against Tennessee, came out a while. If he is not 100%, that offense is really going to struggle. He's not their leading passer, even though he's their starting quarterback. He's their leading receiver and their leading rusher.
He's everything, yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Vanderbilt played well. I think I'd pick Kentucky to win, but Vanderbilt to cover in this one.
Hey, you know what? Just what you do is you take a look at the warm-ups and you find out before the game if Bowden's playing or not.
I'll be on the field. Hey,
text me if you see he's not, so I could put some money on your Commodores.
No inside information.
All right. South Carolina, by the way, I like them against Texas A&M. I'm going to take them to pull off the upset. They get looks like they're going to get Shi Smith back, which is huge. Brian Edwards proved last week, and I think he's starting to prove to a lot of people he's going to be a solid NFL receiver. Texas A&M has dropped 14 games in a row against the spread after a bye week.
Wow.
How about that? But I'm going to go with the outright upset.
Yeah, I have no strong feel for this one. South Carolina obviously struggled last week. They're struggling on offense. They do have good receivers. You mentioned I've seen Edwards in person now 4 straight years, and he's been really good throughout his career. A&M just
it's a blah season. There's nothing.
Yeah,
what do they play for? It's
only year 2 of Jimbo, so we're not jumping to any conclusions. But I was trying to think of something to say, and you just kind of summer blah. No good wins, No bad losses, just kind of a blah season.
And you know what's coming up the next 2 weeks?
Yeah.
At
Clemson,
Georgia and at
Georgia.
LSU. For Texas A&M, at Georgia and at LSU in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, they've already played Alabama and Clemson.
Yeah.
Tough.
If Will Muschamp doesn't beat Texas A&M or Clemson, does he save his job?
Yes.
Okay.
They've already come out and said it.
Okay.
You know, it's unless the AD gets fired, which I don't think they're not going to fire Ray Tanner, the beloved baseball coach, just because he won't fire a football coach.
All right.
He might have to make some staff changes, but I'd be shocked if he's not back.
Well, you were shocked
Yes.
when you heard the news about Mr. Morris getting fired, because we talked about that, and he did get canned after getting embarrassed by Western Kentucky.
Yeah, that was obviously a little too much, you know, getting embarrassed by, you know, a team. Western Kentucky's a solid Conference USA team, but Arkansas should not be losing that badly. I was at the Vanderbilt game at Florida, and I looked at my phone at some point, and I saw like 28-7 or something. I was like, whoa, that's not good news for Chad Morris, and it was not good news for Chad Morris. So there's been a lot of debates this week on how good or not good that job is. It's an SEC job that makes a lot of money, and they got great facilities and great support. So they'll find someone who will accept their money.
They will, and I hope they find somebody. I don't know if there was talk of Mike Leach. You know, I mean, that's interesting. If I'm Arkansas, why the hell wouldn't I want to talk to Mike Leach? That's for sure.
Yeah, I think Leach. You know, Fayetteville's not quite the outpost that Pullman or Lubbock is, but it's got some similarities there. And I think Leach would jump at he wanted the Tennessee job a couple years ago. I think he would jump at the opportunity to return to the SEC after he was the offensive coordinator at Kentucky. I think it would be a good hire.
Yep.
He's eccentric. You got to deal with some of his quirks, some of the things he says.
Hey.
But I think they would take that leap of faith and just bring him on. Mike Norvell, obviously, with his ties to Arkansas. Gus Malzahn's name will always come up at Arkansas, so it'll be something to follow.
All right. And Gus Malzahn, Arkansas, would that be more of Gus Malzahn wanting to go there because, hey, that's the job I want, or is there something? What is his relationship with Auburn? Both him
what is coach's relationship with Auburn? It's that it's very difficult. It's a schizophrenic program, schizophrenic fan base, a lot of booster involvement, a lot of expectations. You're the number 2 dog in the state. Even when Nick Saban retires, Alabama will always be king in that state. But Auburn's a better job than Arkansas. There's no denying that. It's just kind of what Gus Malzahn wants at this stage of his career. Does he want to start his clock off again with a new 7-year contract?
Yeah.
Guaranteed money. I think at this stage of his career, money's not an issue. He's made a ton of money. It's just kind of what he wants at this point of his career.
All right, Big Ten in Minnesota comes through, beats Penn State. What a crazy, great game that was. The end of that game, there were so many little things that happened. The one thing that I couldn't understand that nobody seemed to talk about what was it? Was it Hamler, the one who caught the pass that got him down to the 10-yard line, the 5-yard line?
I believe so.
Okay.
I did not. This game was the same time as the game I was at, so I did not see it. I've seen the highlights and read about it.
Yeah. So he catches the ball, and he does one of those things where he knows he's about to get hit, so he goes down. And I was like, "Are you?" Look, I was going for Minnesota, so I was like, "I'm glad he did that." But if I was a Penn State fan, I would not be happy that my receiver, instead of maybe he could have broke the tackle and scored the touchdown, he just decides, I'm about to get hit, I'm going to go down. So, and then Penn State, 2 plays later, pass interference call, offensive pass interference call, and that pretty much that's it. That ended the game. It was amazing how. Look, well, first of all, I got to ask you this question. You knew I probably would get around to this. What do you think now about my proclamation about the 2 best receivers in college football being on Minnesota?
Think you're crazy? No, it's good call. I mean, they obviously made a name for themselves on Saturday. It's something we have been monitoring all season about the skill on that team. Not Tanner Morgan. I don't think he's going to beat out Justin Fields, but you could argue he should be first team All Big Ten quarterback. Their depth at running back, and you're right about those receivers. And Penn State couldn't cover them, and they are legit good, which is very surprising after the way they started the season.
Yeah, and look, and what they needed was, and that's why I mentioned this at the time, they needed that quarterback to make the plays for them, and Morgan certainly did it. He had an I mean, just I don't like to throw around the word unbelievable very much because it's just an overused word. But that was an unbelievable performance from Morgan in that situation against Penn State.
Yep.
All right. So what do you think about Minnesota, Iowa now? So I was very surprised that they were getting 3 points. I mean, you talk about no respect. I get what they're thinking, but can you make them a 3-point favorite and have them lose anyway? I think this benefits them as a 3-point dog.
I think you're right. I think PJ Fleck's using that as motivation. Hey, we had the biggest win in years, and all this, everyone's talking about us, but now look, we're an underdog. No one believes in us. So they have not won at Kinnick in 20 years, I think. On paper, you obviously like Minnesota, but Iowa's a good home team. Iowa's inability to run the ball scares me. Their rushing stats have not been good in league play, out of league play, all that. So I guess I like Minnesota, but from a betting standpoint, I wouldn't touch this game.
Well, again, it's all about the hangover. That's all it is, because talent-wise, Minnesota is a better team. And if Minnesota loses, then it opens up the door for Wisconsin end of the season.
Yeah.
So we'll find out. Keep in mind, Iowa 1-5 against the spread the last 6 Big Ten home games. So it's not that where they're at home and they dominate or they play better in these situations. They actually don't. And because I have ridden Minnesota for so long, and they're 6-0 straight up ATS last 6, of course I'm just going to keep with them. And that's, hey, if they lose, they lose. But I'm getting 3, so they're going to be one of my top picks this week. I applaud you for taking Indiana as your official double-digit moneyline play of the week. Why not? They're having the best football year that we've seen out of Indiana in years, maybe ever. They are 5-1 straight up, 5-0-1 ATS last 6, and Penn State's coming off just a big loss, and they have not done well at home. They're 0-2-1 against the spread in their last 3 at home. Penn State, that is. So I like the points, and I applaud you for going for the entire enchilada.
Yeah, Penn State, I'm looking just to be sure I don't contradict myself, but they're a team that has not, since early in the year, they have not really flexed their offensive muscles too much. They scored 35 against Purdue, but since then, 17, 28, 28, 26, not bad. But, I don't know if they're going to put up 40-something on Indiana, and Indiana can score.
Yeah, of course, Ramsey is the quarterback now.
Yes.
I think there's a few things to keep in mind is before, even at least when Penix was playing, teams had to coach for Penix and Ramsey that week. That made it a little bit more difficult. Now it's all Ramsey. And Penn State's a great defense. So we'll see how Penn State responds, but I suspect this is definitely going to be a game where the point spread makes a lot of sense, and we'll see what happens if Indiana can pull off the upset. They have never beaten Penn State at Penn State. Penn State 21-1 in the series. Yep. Michigan, they're a 2-touchdown favorite against Michigan State. Michigan State has all sorts of injuries. It's just incredible, the injuries that the Spartans have. They're coming off the incredible collapse against Illinois, who pulled off the win, going bowling. Applaud Lovie Smith in that win. But their injury, the list is just incredible. And Bocce suspended. This is a fierce rivalry. Michigan playing their best football of the season. The road team has won 4 straight in the series.
Yeah, all that, that last stat, it's interesting. But everything points to a big Michigan win, so it's college football, so Michigan State will probably win.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, things not going well with the whole thing with Lewerke and the concussion and all that. That's so not good things going on right now at Michigan State. Last week's, I think D'Antonio said that's a loss he'll basically live with for the rest of his life. But Michigan's playing good football. I like Michigan. I think the number's a little high. I don't know if I would jump on that, but I like Michigan to win.
Yeah, Michigan State started 4 true freshmen on offense last week. So if that happens again against Michigan and their defense, that is probably bad news for the Spartans. Ohio State is a 52-53. I mean, that is just climbing, that point spread. And we're probably about 48 hours from the official announcement of Greg Schiano being the head coach.
Wow.
Yeah, we are. So
love to see it.
Thank goodness. It's going to happen. All right, ACC. Tonight, North Carolina Pitt, big game. It's still crazy in the Coastal. I don't think we could really. Nothing is going to happen this week. I mean, no matter what happens this week, we're still not going to know what's going to happen as far as who's in and who's not. But North Carolina Pitt, 4-point spread. I'm kind of going with North Carolina tonight. They still need to win games for bowl eligibility. They may not go to a bowl this year, which is incredible considering how well they played.
It'd be one of the most eventful non-bowl seasons we've seen. They've been in the headlines so much, almost beating Clemson, then obviously Mac Brown and the upsets early in the year. Pitt is one of 3 teams with 2 losses. Basically, if North Carolina wins this game, it looks like the division will come down to the Virginia Tech game, which would be great. Again, see if Virginia can actually win that game. I like Pitt tonight. I think they're undervalued. The defense has been very good this year. It's finally looks like Pat Narduzzi defense, from his Michigan State days. They had some big injuries in the preseason on that defensive line, so give them a lot of credit there. But I like Pitt.
Yeah, Pitt 1 game behind Virginia. If Virginia Tech,
they lost that game.
They did.
They're really
but
2 games.
If Virginia Tech beats Virginia, and Pitt wins out,
some tiebreakers.
Yeah, then there's an opportunity because Pitt is at Virginia Tech next week. So that's why there's still chances for several teams, including Pittsburgh. By the way, North Carolina 6-0 all time against Pitt as ACC foes, including the last 2 years as dogs. Clemson, a big favorite over Wake. Boy, if I'm a Wake Forest fan, I just cannot believe what is going on. First of all, you take away my top defender a few weeks ago. Now you're taking away my top offensive player. They were having such a great season.
Yeah, and they've had quarterback injuries too, but their depth at that position, they've been able to overcome it. But yeah, tough blow losing Sage Surratt. Scotty Washington's hurt too, so yeah, it's this is not going to go well for Wake even if they're 100%. But now I don't see them have a chance to hang with them.
All right, and then the other games, nothing really too much to talk about there, but I do like Virginia Tech as one of my top picks. Keep this in mind, Georgia Tech. Even though, give respect, Jeff Collins looks like he's going to do some good things there. It's going to take some time. They've been a lot more impressive than I thought they were. But they have never been a dog this season as low as this number of 5.5. The previous 3 low numbers were the same, 9 points, all 3 times. They did not cover. So now that they're getting respectable numbers like 5.5, I think there's 2 respectable. Virginia Tech's a much better team. They're playing their best football in the last couple of years.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. We kind of forgot it after I mentioned this last week. After that Duke debacle, everyone wrote them off, but they're actually their season's been not great by their standards, but it's been fine.
And I like Louisville. I'm surprised Louisville's only a 3-point favorite against NC State.
It's stayed so banged up, mentally, physically, emotionally. I like Louisville as well.
All right, Big 12, and we're going to disagree on this one. I think Baylor's got a real good chance to pull off the upset. There's another no respect factor going on here. They win a game, they drop in the playoff rankings. Come on, they're 13th in the nation and they're undefeated. They are look. We've talked about them being a better road team, so there's that. But still, this is an Oklahoma team that escaped against Iowa State. Important to note, their best offensive lineman, Connor Galvin's going to return in the game for Baylor. He's missed about a month. And they're the number 1 team in the Big 12 in pass efficiency defense. They're going to have to figure out a way to make sure CeeDee Lamb doesn't beat them. So I think they got a shot. I'm not saying, this is my upset of the week, but they're definitely in the mix. I think they got a shot.
I might have to change my pick now. I just saw on Twitter before we started this that Chip and Joanna Gaines have been agreed. They're going to be the guest picker in Waco. So that'll be
who?
You don't know who they are?
No. Where am I?
You need to watch something other than sports. Come on, Greg.
Oh, what is that? A
HGTV show, Fixer Upper.
Okay, Fixer Up show.
They live in Waco.
Okay.
Come on. You need to broaden your horizons.
And because of that, you're going to pick Baylor?
No, I was just kidding.
Okay.
I still like Oklahoma. Baylor, last 2 times they were at home, beat West Virginia by 3, Texas Tech by 3.
Yep.
I think Oklahoma, I know they have defensive issues. They gave up like 89 points in the last 2 games. But I just think on a big stage on a Saturday night, Oklahoma offense too much to handle like a 44-31 type game.
Trey Sermon out for the year, so they just lose a little depth there. Brooks is their number 1 running back, but Sermon, of course, is I think he's got over 2,000 yards rushing for his career. Texas, Iowa State, and Texas still has a shot. So Iowa State, wow, what a tough way to kind of get knocked out. I totally applaud and expected Campbell to go for 2, by the way.
Yeah,
There was no way he wasn't going to go for 2.
Yeah, that was great. And, yeah, I hate when you're watching that. You pretty much knew, I would say immediately, but you can usually tell in a 2-point play if it's going to work right away. And, so they've lost 18-17 to Iowa, 23-21 to Baylor, 42-41 to Oklahoma, and their quote-unquote blowout loss was by 7 to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
They could have had a really special season this year. It just didn't work out.
I thought they were. So maybe next year they've covered their last 10 as a home favorite of less than 10 points. Iowa State has. Who do you like in that game?
I like Iowa State, 7-point favorite. Not exactly what Texas signed up for in year 3 of the Tom Herman era to be a 3-point dog. 7-point dog to Iowa State.
1-4-1 ATS last 6. Texas 6-2 against the spread last 8 for Iowa State. And one of my upsets this week, I'm going to go again in my little upset carousel. I'm taking Kansas. With Tylan Wallace out for the year for Oklahoma State, that's going to be a big blow to their offense. I know Hubbard's an excellent player, but you take one of the best receivers in the nation out of a lineup. I think Kansas, as we know, is dangerous, so maybe they'll be dangerous this week.
Love to see it. Love the Jayhawks.
All right, Pac-12, I applaud you by going with UCLA as one of your top picks, getting 21 against Utah. And I understand what you're talking about because they are just churning lately there at the Bruins. They've won 4 of the last 6. They've covered 5 out of the last 6. It is a big point spread.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, obviously, I like Utah. I project them to be in the playoffs, but I think the spread's a little high there. UCLA's their offense got to turn. The team's just turned it around after a horrid start. Against a good schedule. But, I think the spread's just too high. I expect Utah to win the game by double digits. The spread was seen too high.
Evan Weaver's last home game, I like Cal. This is one of my top picks of the week, getting 7 against USC.
Yeah, it seems like USC's kind of run out of steam there. And Chase Garbers is supposed to be back for Cal. And when he was healthy early in the year, they actually scored some points. Yeah, he's been cleared.
Oh, I did not. That must have happened just the last 24 hours. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Excellent.
That makes it even better.
Yeah, well, that point spread should drop, but I'll take it. Okay, excellent. Well, that doesn't mean he's going to play on Saturday, though, yet, does it?
I think he's supposed to play.
All right. Well, as soon as we're done in 5 minutes, I'm going to put some money on Cal before the line drops. I don't know. All right, AAC and Notre Dame and Navy. This is one of my top picks, even though I'm very surprised that Navy's getting as much as respect that I did not anticipate they were going to get. It's only a 7.5-point spread.
Yeah, so who do you like?
Well,
Notre
Navy.
Dame? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the spread was going to be 2 touchdowns, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, huge bounce-back season for Navy. Notre Dame has been good but not great. Kind of not much talked about in recent weeks. I guess after they had their second loss. I like Navy too. Navy as well. They playing. Heard a stat earlier that when Navy is I'm going to botch this, so you have to look it up. But when Navy, when they're a single-digit dog to Notre Dame, they've got to, they usually cover when they're
really?
Digit dog.
Okay.
Yeah, look that one
up. That'll make me feel better. Okay, and in the Mountain West, disappointing way to lose for Wyoming against Boise.
Yeah.
They almost pulled it out, but they lose. And you know what? Really good gut check win for Utah State. They will host Boise State next week, so they're all of a sudden in it, just a game back of Boise. Fresno, San Diego State tomorrow night. Both teams lost. That's good news for me because I took Hawaii to win this division preseason. So Hawaii's got a shot now. And who do you like tonight? Because I don't like anybody. I don't know what the heck's going to happen tonight.
Yeah, I'd have to dive into the numbers
tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think the Mountain West might be the most difficult league to project this year. Boise State has won their games, but they flirted with disaster against San Jose State, Wyoming. The fact that San Jose State's they're only 1-5 in the league, but that we no longer have the Fresno, San Diego State stronghold. That Utah State's been a little underwhelming at times. I think it's been a very interesting league, but makes it very difficult to project. I would take San Diego State, but I wouldn't feel good about it.
And I'm taking Colorado State. They've been very good to me this year. I'm going to take them over Air Force to win outright. Colorado State, they've even with some injuries, they've been hanging in there. They've won 3 straight. Air Force has won 4 straight. Air Force 1-8 in their last 9 against the spread as double-digit favorites. So they're a 10-point favorite in that one. And in the Conference USA big game tomorrow night, yep. Louisiana Tech and Marshall. We talked up Louisiana Tech last week, and they blew out, North Texas. And I like them again tomorrow night. They're getting no respect. The line was 2. Now it's 4.5. I'm taking Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, this could be a preview of the MAC championship game. Conference USA championship game. I guess Marshall and FAU are tied, so Marshall has won at FAU. But so if they lose this game, they need some help there. But yeah, I'm with you. I like Louisiana Tech.
And with Taylor Johnson out for UAB, this is going to be my upset of the week. That's right, UTEP to beat UAB.
No.
Yes, I said it.
Has UTEP won yet this year? I think they're one.
Yeah,
They've got one win.
Yeah,
right?
they beat.
I think they beat an FCS team.
Yeah, so I'm doing it because
Okay.
UAB, that quarterback, that kid he doesn't look good, and UAB's vulnerable right now because I think they're pretty much done. They have a shot, but not really. And quickly in the MAC, Western Michigan get the big overtime win, so they're a half game up on Central Michigan. In the West, Central Michigan at Ball State on Saturday. And Northern Illinois beats Toledo.
Big win.
That's a big win to save up their bowl hopes. And Miami now has a 1.5 lead on Buffalo. I like Buffalo at Kent. The line's moved up to 6, but Buffalo's playing their best football of the year.
Yeah, I'm probably with you there. Kent State's been a nice surprise in year 2 under Sean Lewis. They still have bowl hopes, but 2-3, 3-6 overall. Buffalo's been a little bit of a disappointment, but I'm with you. I like Buffalo there too. And in the West, 5 of the 6 teams have 2 or 3 losses.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's still kind of wide open. Appalachian State, huge win over South Carolina. They were banged up, but still, App State did it on defense, pick 6 and all that. Unfortunately for Georgia State, I just can't be depressed enough for them. Dan Ellington, the quarterback, goes out with an injury last week. They lose their captain on defense in the game as well. They've already lost one of their top defenders at linebacker a few weeks ago. So a true freshman at quarterback against App State.
Yeah. Who is the? Have you seen? Who is the quarterback?
Cornelius Brown.
Okay, because there was a guy from Vanderbilt who signed with Vanderbilt but ended up at Georgia State.
Oh, okay.
He's a freshman there, so I didn't know if that was
him.
He
was their top recruit this year. But his
other name is Jamil Muhammad.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right. Yep. So it's a tough break.
So App State in control of Georgia State. They looking like the surprise contender there, but I'm with you. I like App State.
Yeah, it's all and the parties run out. And I also another little bit of an upset. I think Texas State gets a big win over Troy. And your sleeper in the Sun Belt, Louisiana Monroe against Georgia Southern, becomes a big game all of a sudden after Monroe upset Georgia State last week.
Every game in the Sun Belt in November is a big game, Greg.
You put it perfectly.
Yep.
Mitch, I appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Sounds good, Greg. Take care.